Hello, everybody, and welcome to Walking Between Shadows. I'm Taryn Elliott, and along with me is my amazing husband.
I'm Ben Elliott.
And we're here to talk about true crime all the time.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Walking Between Shadows. I'm Ben.
I'm Taryn.
And we're back again to present another round with the Dardeen murders. And we want to revisit this because we've learned some things since. But before we get started on that, Taryn, we need to talk about our featured strain this week.
Yes, let's do.
So what's our featured strain called?
This is Ocean Beach.
Ocean Beach, okay.
Yes.
So a brief description of Ocean Beach is it's a hybrid marijuana strain bred by Cookies and Seed Junkie Genetics. Ocean Beach has a sweet flavor profile that smells like sweet fruit tart. The flavor is similar, but with deep hints of kush. Smoking this strain will give you an instantaneous head high that is followed by a relaxing body high. Ocean Beach buds are covered in thick, frosty trichomes that almost resemble a white, sandy beach. The buds feature bright green patches and vivid orange hairs. Medical marijuana patients choose this strain for relieving symptoms associated with anxiety and stress. I think that's something we both need, right?
Right.
Anxiety and stress. So the feelings it gives you kind of tingly and giggly at first and then relaxed. It has some strain flavors similar to sage, kind of a tropical hint, and orange. And one of the negative side effects of it is dry mouth. Have you gotten dry mouth from smoking?
I have many times in my life, but not really bad from this one.
Yeah.
But I haven't smoked very much of this yet, so.
And would you say this is a beginner strain?
No.
Moderate, mid-level strain?
I would say pretty experienced smoker. I mean, maybe not just extremely experienced, because we know that THC content can go up to 30 plus, percent. And this one I think is 25, 26%. So yeah. Pretty experienced.
Yeah, it comes in 22 to 26.
Right. So yeah, pretty experienced smoker.
So it has a unique flavor profile to it because of the terpenes that are in it that are dominated by caryophyllene, which is from pepper. And so it has a spicy, peppery flavor to it too that can lead to coughing.
Well, yes, I coughing a little bit. It does make me want to sneeze too. I've been holding one in for about 5 minutes.
Well, you better let it go or you'll blow your brains out. There you go.
Sorry. Shit. I think my lungs might be a little bit weak from Tennessee too. My brain's a little fuzzy and my lungs aren't too great. I haven't been able to smoke too much.
Yeah. So to finish that out, it's got linalool in it, which is the floral or sage kind of flavor, taste, and smell. And then it's got a high amount of limonene. So that's where the citrus comes from, is that limonene terpene.
Yeah, it's a shock to the lungs, a little bit, but it's good. It's very, very good. I do recommend it.
Gotcha.
Got this down at what? Good Day Farm?
Yeah, Good Day Farm in Belton, Missouri. So we want to give a shout out to Good Day Farm. They always take good care of us.
Great people, great place, good variety.
Yep.
Good discounts.
Definitely on a first name basis.
Right. Great place.
Yeah. So they do, if you're a veteran, that's definitely a place to go here. They probably give some of the best discounts around this area. And again, just good people, real laid back, real easy, guide you through the process if you haven't been before. And again, it's Good Day Farm in Belton, Missouri.
Yes.
Right on. Okay, so we got back from vacation yesterday.
Was that vacation?
No.
It was not vacation at all.
No. I don't mean vacation. I mean...
Thanksgiving break.
Thanksgiving break. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I don't know if break is something I don't want to call it either. It was nice.
Right.
But it was exhausting. We're both very, very exhausted for the past 3 weeks.
So. Yeah. So over 3 weeks, we've driven more than 59 hours. So we've been on the road a lot.
Yeah.
And last night when we were driving into a snowstorm.
It was beautiful though. I'm gonna put some video up of it.
Yeah,
a little
I
bit of
noticed
it.
out there in the truck a while ago there was a hole in the seat, in the driver's seat. Yeah.
Really?
And my butt pinched a hole in it.
But you're talking about the passenger seat. I burned it with one of my
Well, there's 2 or 3 of those.
my joints.
There's 2 or 3 of those. No.
I don't know why I would never smoke in the vehicle.
What are you talking about?
Right.
But yeah, so we drove back into the first real winter weather of the Kansas City area. And but we made it in safe, obviously.
Yeah, here we
And
are.
I think we collapsed as soon as we came through the door.
Yeah, I hope we don't sound like we're dragging too much tonight. Just like I said, exhausted but ready to get to work. So I'm excited about doing this episode.
Right. So let's start out. Let's jump back to November 17th of 1987 in Ina, Illinois. So tell me about that situation, that family.
This case is out of Ina, Illinois. It happened November the 17th of 1987 to a family by the last name of Dardeens. So the Dardeen family, there was Keith Dardeen, who was 29 years old, Elaine, who was 31 years old, and Peter, who was 3 years old. And Keith worked for a water treatment company. I believe it was Wren Lake.
Yeah, it was over by Wren Lake.
Okay, which was not very far from Ina, just a couple miles outside of Ina, Illinois. And Elaine worked for an office supply warehouse. So both of them were working. They had bought a trailer after they married. It was just a 1-bedroom trailer, and rented a plot in Ina, Illinois, and put that trailer.
Yeah, so they owned the trailer, but they were renting the land it was sitting on.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it was in the middle of nowhere, you know. They'd been there for about a year, and everything was good. I mean, Keith was over the music at the Baptist church, and Elaine was right there with him playing the organ. Peter was very sociable, from what I understand. You know, he was even kind of funny, you know, and he liked to play around and joke even as a 3-year-old. Oh yeah, he was a prankster, and he liked to cut up with his family, and he had a very structured life that was loved, very loved. His grandparents, Keith's parents, they were divorced, but they both lived just right outside of Mount Vernon, so they were able to babysit for Elaine and Keith when they were working.
So let's
other things.
Let's set the picture of where this place is.
Okay.
So Ina, Illinois is a very small town, right?
Tiny.
Yeah, tiny. And that area has several very small towns. Benton, Ina. And then you get to Mount Vernon, which Mount Vernon, I think, is probably 50, 60,000 or maybe more, maybe less. But it's kind of in the middle of Illinois, in the lower third of it, southern Illinois. And Interstate 57 runs through Ina and Mount Vernon. So there was a major thoroughfare there. And lots of traffic goes up to Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Right. Perfect area for people to drive through and pass by. But they were in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I forgot what the population was, but it was small. And in 1987, it was smaller than that. But they weren't small in crime.
No.
I mean, there was a lot of crime going on at the time, and Keith knew that. And he was paranoid about that. It was said that a teenage girl even stopped by the trailer one night and was wanting to use the phone, and Keith turned her away because he didn't trust her. I mean,
so let's talk about Keith a little bit. He wasn't a bad guy.
No,
that doesn't mean that he was a bad guy. I mean, in fact, he was always forward thinking, very frugal, just like his wife. And he would buy like generic sodas at the Sam's or something,
like Sam's Choice or Equate.
Yeah. And he would take them to work and sell them, and the profit he made off of that, he put in his son's college fund at 3 years old.
Well, you think about it, in 1987, you would probably pay, maybe 10 cents a can?
Yeah, it was cheap.
It was cheap.
Pretty cheap.
And he was selling them for 50 cents a can. So whatever he was making, profit from it, he was putting in Peter's college fund. Which says a lot. I mean, it's better than him going out and buying a crack rock, which is and he even took initiative to go sell something that he bought, and a little inflation there to put in his pocket. But hey, he was the in-between guy with the sodas. So yeah. stable life, good life for this family, and very involved in the church. Like I said, had a lot of good friends. They had just won a Halloween costume contest in October before. They dressed up like the Wizard of Oz. So Keith was the Tin Man, and Elaine, I think, was the Scarecrow, and little one was the Lion. Peter was the Lion. So I mean, they really got involved in a lot of things, and were doing their thing.
Yeah.
They decided to put the trailer up for sale because of the issues with the crime that was going on in Ina. Keith wanted to move back to where his family was, a couple towns over. Really did want to get out of Ina. They also needed a bigger place. Elaine was expecting a baby. And they were just wanting to get out of this trailer.
Yeah.
Put it up for sale.
Yeah. For a couple of reasons, but Keith was definitely leery of what was going on there.
Right. In, I believe it was October, November, they put a little sign up in the window of the trailer for sale.
So it was about the same time as occurred.
Sure, it was just right before they were ready to sell.
Gotcha.
And they put this up, and they figured they'd have some time to do that. So they put this for sale sign up, and on November the 17th of 1987, Nightmare came knocking on their door.
That night, a familiar name came up. Tommy Lynn Sells happened to be in the area. And he came up on this trailer. He noticed the for sale sign. And so, as we understand it from through the window, he came up to the trailer, knocked on the door, and when Keith refused him entry, he pulled a gun and more or less forced his way in with that gun.
Right.
And once he was inside at gunpoint, he made Keith help him bind his wife and 3-year-old son up.
Right. He asked for some rope. Keith said, I have no rope. He said, well, then find something that I can bind them up with. They found some duct tape in the kitchen drawer. Keith had to help bind up his wife and his 3-year-old son.
Yeah. And it was at this point, Tommy Lynn Sells apparently made Keith leave, get into Keith's car, and they left the trailer.
Right.
Not really understand, or I don't know, maybe you do, how long this period lasted. But essentially they left, and Tommy Lynn Sells comes back. But Keith does not.
Right.
He comes back and he goes in the house again. And what happens when he goes in the house?
He gets in the house where Elaine and Peter are tied up, and first goes to Peter, looks around a little bit and sees a baseball bat that Peter had gotten for his 3rd birthday from his dad. It was a big, baseball bat. It was too big for him. But Keith was looking forward to seeing Peter grow into that bat. Tommy Lynn Sells finds it. And he goes to Peter first. Peter's laying on the floor just crying his eyes out. I mean, he's terrified. I can't even imagine. And he lifts the bat up and he strikes Peter in the head. Pretty hard. But Peter is still alive. Elaine's there watching this go on. And all she can do to comfort him is, if Peter is to look him in the eyes, I'm here, Tommy Lynn Sells then picks up the bat and strikes him again, but just barely. It was almost like a taunt or a tease. And Elaine is screaming best she could over muffled tape in her mouth. And then Tommy Lynn Sells picks up the bat over his head and he starts beating him violently, little Peter, until he is dead. He next goes to Elaine and he strikes her either in the back of the head or around the neck area, which doesn't kill her, but Elaine goes into labor. And Tommy Lynn Sells steps back with a smirk on his face and watches her deliver a 7-month fetus, a little girl that they were going to name Casey. And he strikes her with the bat. He lets her get in one gasp of air and he strikes this baby with a bat and kills her. He then looks at Elaine, who is begging him to kill her. Please just kill me. You've taken my whole entire life. I don't know where my husband is. My son is dead. My little girl's dead. Kill me.
Yeah.
And he takes that bat and he hits her again. And another thing, wait. So she delivers that baby. Tommy Lynn Sells has a knife on him too at this point. And he gets this knife out and he starts cutting her off her breasts, at her breasts, after she delivers Casey. And then he starts beating her with the baseball bat until she is gone, until she is dead. So Tommy Lynn Sells goes into Tommy Lynn Sell mode. And he takes the bodies and he places them in the bed, in the water bed, in a posed position. And he goes to cleaning up.
Yeah, what a lot of people didn't know about Tommy Lynn Sells is he stayed in the scenes for hours in some cases.
Right.
And he knew how to clean it up. He had a lot of experience. I mean, 10, 11 years at this already, and had committed many murders up to this point. But he was very skilled at getting his trace evidence out of the scene.
Correct.
Yeah. So, you know, in linking Tommy Lynn Sells to this murder, it's very difficult because there isn't evidence like that. There isn't DNA, and this is probably before CODIS was a really big thing. And it's just very difficult to link him to this, or anyone for that matter, but especially him. However, what happened next?
So the next morning, Keith doesn't show up at work. There's no phone call and sick, nothing. So his supervisor, who knows Keith and his family well, after trying to call several times, he calls Keith's dad a couple towns over, and Keith's dad said, all right, well, meet me at the trailer, and I have a spare key, and we'll get the sheriff over there too. So they get there and beat on the door. Nobody comes to the door. He uses his key, Keith's dad does, and they go in, and everything's pretty much cleaned up. So everything's pretty much cleaned up, and they start walking back to the back bedroom, the only bedroom in this trailer, and there they stumble across a nightmare of the bodies that Tommy Lynn Sells has put in the bed, posed up nicely like they were asleep, but it was a bloody nightmare. The bat that he had used on Peter and Elaine and Casey was inserted into Elaine's vagina
and left there.
So immediately they think Keith.
Yeah.
I mean, where is he at? He's not even there.
Right.
They start questioning Keith's family, Elaine's family, and they go to Keith's mom and they're like, how could your son do this to his family, to this newborn baby? And she says, baby? I didn't even know there was what newborn baby? And they have to explain that, what happened.
She went into labor.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I can't even imagine. They start to, everyone that knows Keith starts saying, there's no way he could have done this. So a couple hours later and a couple miles down the road, they come across Keith's vehicle in a bank parking lot right beside a police station.
And that was in Benton.
Okay. Yeah, so that was in Benton. And the next day, after they're searching for him everywhere, they would still really think something's going on, but there was blood all inside Keith's car. But they didn't know if that was Keith's blood or if that may have been the family's blood that he could have murdered. But they some hunters on the third day end up finding Keith's body in a field out by Wren Lake College, which was right just a couple of miles down the road from mine as well. This case is still unsolved. There's something about Tommy Lynn Sells. So after he was arrested for the murder of Kayleen Harris down in Del Rio, Texas in 2000, he confessed to many murders. We talked about last week, even with Debbie and Ambria, he confessed to that murder and how there was details and how he would get things jumbled up a lot. Well, the only detail that he had given that would have pointed him to the Dardeens, besides his confession, would have been some watermelon dishes. They did have watermelon dishes stacked up on their countertops, a little acrylic dishes with watermelons on them. And so they were able to kind of link those two then.
Yeah, because that wasn't public knowledge through
Right.
the investigation, even when it happened.
And that was 13 years later, too. So
Right.
he confessed to Debbie and Ambrius first. And with that confession, he stated that Debbie and Ambria had watermelon dishes piled up. And that there was a mouse dish, soap dish in the bathroom. And we did find a bunny rabbit soap dish in the bathroom. So if you link those small details that may have been confused with other murders that he possibly committed, because he possibly committed 70 plus murders, that makes sense.
Yeah, this guy was psychotic.
Right. It's his MO.
Yeah, but everything you look at, every methodology you look at involving the Dardeens and even Debbie and Ambria were methods that he used.
Right.
The fact that the scenes were even clear of his evidence, he'd done that before.
Right. And clean it up. I mean, Debbie and Ambria, there's been several tests, DNA tests done that have come back inconclusive because they're too diluted. I believe the same with the Dardeens. I mean, of course, back in 87, there was no, but he was notorious for wiping up fingerprints. And he wasn't a bragger. He didn't go around bragging about things he did to people until he got caught.
Right.
He said he was glad he got caught.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, he was married 3, 4, 5 times, and
Yeah.
all of those women didn't know anything until after the fact.
I think he was accused of molesting one of his stepdaughters. And I don't know, I believe they tried to work that out, with his wife, Jessica, one of his wives. But, he probably was. This was a sick bastard. And his MO in the 80s was, so he started his career in 79 of killing people. And in the 80s, it was to go after families, men and women and children. And in the 90s, he had kind of worn down a little bit, and he was going more after just women, single mothers, and children.
And the kids, yeah.
Which kind of fits Debbie and Ambria. And then we go back to 87. He was killing men then. Keith Dardeen. So, that's the story of the Dardeens. And like I said, it's still unsolved. Many people believe he did commit this crime. Tommy Lynn Sells did. I personally believe it fits his MO. But just like with Debbie and Ambria, very small town, and very unlikely they have the resources to bring Tommy Lynn Sells back and have him prosecuted through their justice system. So,
well, again, I think it's another situation where, like, the Gibson County sheriff and investigator went down there and realized that Texas had him. Texas wasn't going to let him go.
right. We all know that Texas will pull that switch real quick, like.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they all wanted him gone.
Yep.
And if everyone would have taken him to every single place he would have done this, he would still be here contaminating this earth. I wish they would have been able to solve more, and give more justice to the victims' families. But this is another Gilgo Beach murder. I mean, it could be, all these victims of, it's just almost impossible to,
Well, I mean, humanity scares me sometimes because there's, interesting facts, like in your lifetime you walk by or interact with 3 serial killers.
Yeah. It's hard to believe that a serial killer like Tommy Lynn Sells, Ted Bundy, any of them, would come through such a small town. Especially when we talk about Debbie and Ambrius. I mean, we grew up in that town, in that county. It's just hard to believe, but, absolutely could happen. Just like in Ina, Illinois. Population of 1,600 people. Yeah, it can happen.
And a place out in the middle of nowhere.
And it makes you wonder, do these serial killers know that they don't have the resources to prosecute me? I'm just going to slip through.
In Tommy Lynn Sells' case, to me, it feels like he liked that rural setting later and later in his crime spree because it did give him more time.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah, it did.
At this point, he had been injured during another crime that he committed. He liked those small towns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he lived part of his life in Springfield, Missouri.
Right.
And, you know, committed crimes suspected in Dyersburg. And, you know, if you look at all of it, it's small towns where he had time to clean it up.
Yeah.
Or run away.
Time to clean it up without anybody really seeing him in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And taking out everybody that could be. I mean, what was his quote? Dead man can't talk.
Dead men can't talk.
And he got that from his abusive stepfather.
Right. And he was extremely charismatic, especially with women. And I mean, he was a con man like nothing else. He could talk people into anything. And even his siblings said growing up, he could talk women into anything.
Yeah. Sleeping with him. I mean, sharing drugs with him and giving him rides and money. And I've seen this picture. I don't get it. But, you know, charmer, I guess.
Well, I mean, look at me. I talked you into it, so.
Gosh, sexy thing.
Yeah, okay. So, again, we wanted to revisit the Dardeens, especially after we both read Through the Window.
Great book.
Yeah.
I mean, tragic, horrible, horrid stories and cases, but it gives you an idea of, or a dive into the mind of Tommy Lynn Sells.
Yeah, so check out that book by Diane Fanning, Through the Window, The Terrifying True Story of the Coast to Coast Killer, Tommy Lynn Sells.
Yeah.
And, you'll pick up on some of the stuff that we've learned through that book and, just researching more about what we did starting out in season 1 of Walking Between Shadows.
Right.
So again, the Dardeens, 1987 in Ina, Illinois. So I want to say before we go, thank you.
Thank y'all.
No. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And our audience. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe.
Please do, y'all.
All right. See you again.
This has been Walking Between Shadows. Again, I'm your host, Ben Elliott, and my wife, Taryn Elliott. Look for our next episodes coming soon, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button.